All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy International Women's Day to all of us. Thank you, first of all, to AYV for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to come and speak to the young people. I may not look it, but I'm becoming an old woman, and I need my notes. I'm not like young Fabian there. So excuse me, because I'll be going into my notes a bit. All right, so show of hands, first of all, if you already know what you want to be when you grow up. Great. And if you didn't put your hands up, it's great too, because I'm not doing what I thought I would be doing. All right? So I'll talk you through how I got to where I am and then give you a few examples which I know will help you. So I grew up here. I loved school. I loved studying. My early memories are basically coming home from school, going to do my homework, getting my cousin, helping him do his homework, and then we play. So now I don't even understand when I have to chase my daughter to do homework. I'm like, nobody ever chased me to do homework. Like, it was natural to me. And that's how I grew up. But I grew up also being a responsible child. So I learned in the home the different things that I needed to do to be the adult I am today. Even though, as much as I was taught how to cook, I don't cook today because I have a choice. But if I need to eat something that I like, and I'm the only one who has to cook it, I can get into the kitchen and cook it. That's choice. Okay? So that's how I grew up. I was here until I was 17. And I took life for granted. There were so many things I didn't even think about. Like, I was privileged. Other people didn't have the experiences that I have had, or I didn't even know that there were girls who didn't go to school until I came back to Sierra Leone. Like, we were just in a bubble, going to school, doing what we had to do. We had our nice family units, and we had the values that they taught us, and we went. And then at 17, I went to the UK to study. And it was like, whoa, the reality of life. Now I'm a 17-year-old child, but I'm an adult. So I have to find a job. I lived in an apartment with my sister, and we were taking care of ourselves, no parents. And it was a stark reality for us, like the change in the environment, but also in just, how we lived. And because I was always an A student, I finished Aniwalch School at 15, right? I went to IPAM. I was the youngest in my class, 15, doing a diploma in accounting. And I don't know if I was arrogant or not, because I never even thought about it. But it was the norm for me, right? And I went to the UK and I started doing what you call Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And all the people in class were adults, people who had finished university. Okay, so I'm 17 with all these people, fine, I'm going along. And then we got to the third year, and there was a paper called Decision Making. Now, decision making required an adult mind. I needed to have experienced the office, and I just couldn't picture it. Like, it just didn't come. And then we didn't have the internet to go and do all the research that you guys have. We didn't have all these people who would come and talk to us and tell us all these things. Like, we were practically on our own, just, trying to make it. And so decision making just became something else for me. But then it was also, I was away from home. I wanted to be in Sierra Leone. Hadn't seen my parents in years. The war was going on. Everything was happening. I had to work. And I was just like, you know what, studies, go sit down first. I'm not able. And I carried on working. Now, I loved my job. I started off working in a restaurant. And my sister used to laugh at me. She was like, Then they give you toilets for clean. I say, yes. And they give me toothbrush for clean the tile and the wall. So I'm like, all of this, they build character. I don't mind. And this is why today, when people start saying, oh, I'm not be able to go now walk, or this, I'm not going to able to do it because I make some, like, I've done it all. And I listen, no excuse from nobody. And people then go look at me and say, oh, you say Aristo. Yes, I embrace the Aristo, but when I don't need for be Aristo, I can be anything else where I want for be, right? So I stayed in the UK. I was there for about 7.5 years. And as soon as they get the first election after the war, I called me people there. I said, they come home. Daddy say, hey, well, studied on first. I'm like, no. Mommy say, you know, get party then I again, no, all man don't go. I say, I didn't make new one day. He said, okay, come. And I came home. And my first job was at KPMG. I was interviewed. They understood that I hadn't worked before. They knew I had potential. They knew I was smart. They knew that I could learn quickly. So I was given a chance. And I took that chance. I worked for KPMG for 5 years. Now, while I was at KPMG, my purpose changed in my head. So initially, from 5 years old, I wanted to be an accountant. I didn't even know what that meant. And because my dad hung on to it, I felt I had to do it. So I did it. I became an accountant, a management accountant, and he was happy. But by then, I'd moved on in my head. I wasn't even interested in accounting anymore. Now I wanted to do HR. Now I run two businesses. I never even thought about entrepreneurship in those days. So, I mean, if you don't know what you want to be now, it doesn't even matter. Because as you grow up, as your interests change, as you interact more with your community, as you become more exposed, things will change, and your passion, your purpose might change as well. So as much as, yes, I had my goals, I had my short-term goals, I had my long-term goals, but what did I do? I had to keep reviewing them and revising them as I changed as a person. Now I was in the workplace in Sierra Leone for the first time, and it was a completely different experience. Because again, first of all, you come home from abroad and everybody's laughing at you. In fact, they call me David Keui Aristo. It was fine. For me, I didn't mind. Like, I'm very thick-skinned. Things just roll off me. Like, I pretend I don't even know when you're laughing at me. And so I just carry on with it. And, but when I was there, I realized that they put me in a position of authority, right? I had to go out and get clients, but only the women wore uniforms at KPMG, and it was the lower level staff that wore uniforms. So I had to come in now and wear a uniform. So I said to my boss, I said, this uniform thing is going to be a problem. I said, not because I don't want to wear it. I said, but if you ask me to go and speak to heads of accounting departments about getting software, they'll know I'm not a decision maker because I have a uniform on. He said, oh, that's a point, but we can't have you, the only person not wearing a uniform. I said, okay, fine, so you deal with it. He called the other women, and he said, uniform or clothing allowance? The woman said, clothing allowance. And that was the end of uniform at KPMG. Don't be afraid to speak up. The other encounter I had with another boss, we went to Ghana, and we were there doing our work. And he says, can you make me a coffee, please? And I said, I don't feel like drinking one. And he said, yeah, but wouldn't you make me one? I said, sure, if I was going to make one myself, absolutely. I'm like, but you're the one who wants to drink coffee. Maybe you should just make it. And I went one step further, and said, if it was this man, so, who was in the same kind of role as me, would you have asked him? He says, point taken. And that's how you build your respect, right? And I would be in the office and I would see men slapping women's bottoms. And for me, that was like, whoa. And then I felt a hand on my bottom. And I turned around. It was a manager. And I'm like, don't you ever, ever dare do that again. And that was the end of that. And more women realized, actually, I don't need to be scared to speak up. Because, we do these things in the office, but we are uncomfortable, right? But we just accept it because we think if we say, don't do that, then we'll probably lose our jobs, or they start acting up, or what have you. And that's why it's important, what Fabian said, for us to stick together, right? So when they saw that that was how I reacted, they were able now to speak up for themselves as well. Okay. So halfway through KPMG anyway, I decided that I didn't want to do accounting. I moved into HR. What did I do to change my career? I had to research, find out about this career. What is it that I need to know? What do I need to study? Where do I need to study? Okay, so these are all the things that, and then you make your plan. So you have your short-term goals, your long-term goals. You make your plan on what it is you need to do in order for you to be able to get that job that you want to get, or get into that field that you want to get into. So that's what I did with the HR, which is what I still do now. But I also run my own business, which comes with a whole lot of competencies that I learned from the management accounting course. So I'm really using all of it at the moment anyway. So yes, I went into HR, went to GT Bank, went to NPA. NPA was, it was an experience of its own. Do you know EDSA? Yes? Okay, so NPA became EDSA. And you can just imagine, so it's the public sector, it's a lot of staff. I'm doing human resources, managing the people, and they're used to doing things in a certain way, but I'm coming in and saying, no, this is not how we should be doing things. These are the things I want to introduce. And they ended up with a banner with my name on it saying I was shwen shwen. And then they say, he just did pass with Ail. I'm like, oh. But again, I came to the office with gifts. I'm like, just pretended that, it didn't happen. And then they called a meeting, we all spoke, and, all of that. But it was a very tough 4.5 years, but it was one of my favorite jobs because I learned so much. And it also built my network. Now, so these friends that my mom said I didn't have, okay? I mean, they still are abroad, most of them. The people I interact with here now are people that I met when I came back. But then I knew so many people from growing up. I mean, I was a very social person. We went to the clubs, we went to the college sports, we went everywhere, my sister and I. We had older cousins, so my mom was always comfortable with us just, hanging out with our older cousins and going out. So we met a lot of people. I know people from all walks of life, right? I go into offices and I see people I know, people I haven't seen in like 20 years, okay? But because I went out, like you guys are here today, get to know each other. So when you see each other next time, or when you go in for a job interview and you're there, you're like, oh, I remember you from blah, blah, blah. You have conversations. And it's very important for you to be able to build your career with your network, because guess what? I mean, I'm here today speaking to you guys because my company has been built on my network. I very rarely market. Clients come because people refer based on either the work I've done or based on something they've seen. Okay, so it's very important for us to have all these networks. that we cherish, please. Cherish those networks. Also, give up all these biases. So for me, I never thought about I'm a woman, I shouldn't do this, we have women there, they shouldn't do that. No. Be yourself, do what you want to do as long as you're not hurting anybody. The side of you that you think you don't like, you can work on changing, all right? But the side of you that you think is the strong woman that you need to be in order for you to progress, don't hide that because you think people won't like it and you could upset people. It's okay to upset people sometimes, right? They may not like what you're about, but they respect you for it, okay? And they want to be like you, but some of them can't, and it's okay. We're all different people, all right? I know somebody's going to talk about health, so I won't talk about that, but I'll just say we need to make sure that we have a healthy mind and a healthy body all the time while we're working. So it's all good to be working, but we need to make time for some healthy fun, for us to read the lovely novels that make us feel good, for us to watch the movies, yes, you relate to that. For us to watch the movies that we like and all of that, okay? As long as there's a fine balance. And of course, I don't exercise, but you should, so don't be like me. Don't be like me. Take your vitamins, eat your healthy foods. Don't be like me. I'm trying very hard. We can't all be perfect. And what else is there? Oh, so I'm not sure if we're all religious, but as Fabian also said, prayer helps, right? So I have a connection with God. I don't necessarily like church. And that is because I don't necessarily like all the messages, and I find myself becoming a sinner at the end of the service. So I tend to stay home and do like TV church or podcast church and things like that. But if you like the message, you enjoy the message, it's always very good to have a connection with your higher being, because that is what keeps you going, all right? And don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. This is not my comfort zone. I don't do public speaking very easily. In fact, the first time I tried it, thank God it wasn't live, it was on camera, and I couldn't do it. But I've done it so often now that I wouldn't say I feel comfortable, but I still try, and I think it's important. So again, just challenge yourself and make sure that you get out of your comfort zone. And I feel like I've taken up so much time. The final thing I would say to you is I would like you guys to repeat after me, okay? So I believe in me. I am committed to fulfilling my purpose. And I will fulfill my purpose. Do you mean it? All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. I mean, I'm available if you want to talk afterwards. There's so much to talk about.